Every boy is asking themselves this question: are you enough? Will you have what it takes when the time comes? And if your father does not answer that question for you, that you are enough and that you do have what it takes, what happens is these young boys grow to be grown men still running around asking that question. And that was me. Am I enough? Am I enough for you? Am I enough for you? Am I enough for you? Never feeling like I had what it takes. And so although I had all the knowledge, all those things, I didn't have the stones to launch the podcast. What did I do instead? I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. I have a Google Doc of 600 pages of content, of framework, of strategies.
I love it.
Because I was just like, I got to do something with this, but I don't have the courage to launch it.
Devon Taylor, Devon Taylor, Devon Taylor, Devon Taylor, Devon Taylor podcast. Devon Taylor, Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Devon Taylor podcast, where we have guests from all around the world tell their unique and powerful stories to not only allow their voice to be heard, but for you to leave feeling inspired. Today's guest knows what it means to rebuild from the ground up, nearly losing his marriage, being over $100,000 in debt, and carrying an extra 60 pounds, to creating a business, strong family, and a clear purpose. Our next guest has turned his rock bottom into the foundation of his legacy. Now, through his coaching practice and his podcast, the Dad Nation podcast, he's helping thousands of high-performing men do the same thing. So I'm happy to welcome to the show, Mitchell Osmond. Hello.
Thank you for having me on the show, Devon. I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you and your listeners today.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And I'd really like to start at the beginning. Before you got into the coaching and the success, I think we often, when we're doing these interviews, we miss the portion of the messy part. And I kind of like to know like where this all started for you, or at least what did those points look like for you?
Yeah, no, and I love starting there because I think a lot of people make the mistake of listening to people on podcasts or Instagram or TV or whatever and think they had it all figured out or it was easy for them or
Yeah.
that we're unrelatable. And and let me be the first to tell you and the first to tell anyone who listens that I have learned some things along the way only because I've learned all the lessons the hardest way possible. And I'm a slow learner, but I'm a hard worker. And so it's important for people to understand that I'm just, we're just everyday people with everyday problems and all those different things. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I turned my life around, but I want to start with that preface of saying, because I did, if I did, which is a guy who was set up for failure in many ways, certainly you can as well. Um, but yeah, so real quick backstory. I'll try and make this as succinct as possible. Yeah, I was typical, like raised in the dysfunctional home, alcoholic father, crime, drugs, abuse in my home growing up, and I was kind of I grew up as I was the youngest boy in the family, and as I grew up, I went through therapy and different things, and I thought I kind of had it all handled. And as I became, a young man, I had always found myself in leadership positions, found myself in scenarios where the world would look at me as a person of influence, success, whatever. And so what I did was I ended up propping myself up on that, and I was really concerned about at the outside look. What do people think, right? And that kind of came crumbling down within a certain amount of time. So I got married, and then 3 years into marriage is really when this rock bottom moment hit that you sort of forementioned. And the reason why was because I had unhealed wounds that began to bleed out into my marriage, and my wife was really paying the price. And so, like you said, 60 pounds overweight, 100 grand in debt. I was medicating every day with alcohol and drugs to sort of cope with where I was at in life. I was let go of a senior leadership position And especially as men are what we find so much of our identity wrapped up in what we do and how, in the world and our careers. Um, and and so I began to spiral, and we had a really critical conversation. My turning point, there were really 2 points that I remember where I was like, "Oh, this has to change." Me and my wife were it was around the same time, this 3 years into marriage. Me and my wife were sitting on the couch in the living room, and I'd always wanted to be a father. Because of my situation growing up, I was determined to create a different life for my children. We're having that conversation, and and she said, What? Well, we're not having kids." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She said, I'm not bringing a kid into this relationship, into this life, you know? It wouldn't be fair to them." And I remember this, like, moment of complete shock. I'm like, "Well, yeah, I know things are bad, but that bad?" And started a conversation, which, divorce was brought up, which at our I mean, I'm old school, and we always said we'd never use that word. And so I went throughout that week thinking every day when I came home, will this be the last day, that I'm married? Or will she be home when I go home? And so the second turning point for me was literally 7 days later. And I get invited to sing at the funeral of this wealthy man. He was a philanthropist. It's about 2,000 people in the room, very big funeral. And the minister was speaking and he was wrapping up. And I was getting ready to sing the last song. And I overheard him ask the congregation a question. And after he was talking about all the things that this man had done, how he'd given, and all that he's done for his community. And he said, "Now, are you living a life worthy of imitation? If you were to die today, would you be proud of the legacy that you left?" And Devon, when I heard those words and that question, I tried to sing the lyrics to the last song, but I could barely choke them out because all I could think in that moment was, "Man, if I died today and this were my funeral, nobody would be looking at my casket saying, 'I want to live like he did.' You know, I want to model the marriage he had. I want to model the health that he had, his relationship with his wife, or his bank account, whatever." They probably would have said at that point, "Man, he had a tough life, and it was over too soon." You know, and it was really sad. It was really sad, and so I went home that day, and I was like, "I'm I'm done. I'm done making excuses. I'm done not taking ownership." And I'm gonna do whatever it takes to become the man, husband, father, for my wife that she needs, and also if I want kids one day to become that man for them. And so I surrounded myself with 4 or 5 men who became my anchors, really. I reached out, and we can talk a little bit about that later. It was so powerful that I created a framework called the Iron 5 around it, that all my clients have their own Iron 5, their own 5 men to surround them, to hold them high when they feel weak, right? um, to hold them to the standard that they said that they wanted for themselves and their families. And that's how within 18 months, we paid off the 100 grand, completely restored our marriage. I lost the weight to 60 pounds, built a lean, strong body, and was clean of distractions and substances and focused, and got back into leadership again. And what happened then was something interesting. Was a lot of people started asking questions because they'd be like, "Dude, what happened? Like, you're on fire, man." And so I started helping friends of mine. I've helped my friends get out of debt, help my friends creating fitness plans for them, and I helped them get closer to their wives, just sharing the things that I had learned along the way. And then one of my mentors challenged me about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. He said, "Man, if you really want to have impact, if you really want to create a life worth imitating, you need to start a podcast and share your story with the world." And so after 8 years of this learning and growth and helping so many other friends of mine and people in my life, I launched the Dad Nation podcast. Within 6 months, it became a globally top rated uh, podcast. It's top 5% in the world right now, and got listeners all around the world, men who were just reaching out, who wanted to help. And so they started DMing me and said, "Hey, man, would you help me?" And, um, and so Ed Mylett, I'm a big fan of him, and he said in his podcast a little while ago, "You are the most qualified to help the person you used to be." And for me, that's what I dedicated my life to. And so with these men reaching out looking for help, I launched my coaching practice. And that's what I do today is I help men who are struggling with the same things that I did, high performing men who want to reclaim their home, their health, and their happiness without sacrificing their career success. So that's my story, man. That's how I'm here.
I love it. No, and I'm glad that you were able to kind of give us a synopsis of everything. I do want to go back to the pillars thing because I feel that's so essential to what's going on in our times now. I feel like a lot of men are struggling with finding themselves, or even, when they do realize, I'm at a certain point in my life, where do I begin to even rebuild? So I'd love for you to kind of explain what you were saying with the pillars and how you got a group of men and that was your support system and kind of help pull you through.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think the reason why I say, for me, the three things that we talk a lot about is home, health, and happiness, because what a lot of people, and my language is largely, to do with men because I work with men exclusively, but the principles apply to everyone. But a lot of times we can get so focused on our careers and let everything else fade, right? Our marriages, our relationship with our kids, our health. I mean, I'll never forget. I came from home from work in that season of struggling. My wife said to me, I came home because I had an incredible day and I was so excited. And I was telling her all about the day. And she looked at me. She was just like dead eyes, and I stopped. I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, you don't seem like you're happy to be talking to me right now. And she said, you go to work and you give everyone else the Mitchell buffet and you come home and you give me the scraps. I'm tired of it. And for me, that was a moment of like, man, I got it wrong. Because what's the point of this leadership and influence and success if I'm going to be sitting around the Christmas tree alone this year? You know? And so the reason why we talk about that is because especially for men, we're very strategic, very we're great at trying to fix problems and bring solutions. But those skills, though they work really well in the workplace and we get paid very well for them, and we do them for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, we use those skills, they don't work when we come home, right? That's what happens. My clients, they come home and they continue to treat their wife and their kids like, you know, staff members or employees. It's just because that's what they know, and that's what they're good at. And so that's the reason why I focus on those three pillars, because um that's where we get it wrong so often. And so when I say home, I say your key relationship with your spouse, and then your relationship with your kids, right? Your key relationships, your family, whatever that looks like. If I say your health, I'm talking about your overall health and wellness, your fitness. We talk a lot about nutrition, exercise, all those things. And then when we talk about your happiness, it's really largely about your emotions, right? How to keep your cool, um, show up as a present and loving father, not checked out, not burned out, all those different things. And also just the eliminating the self-sabotager, and the insecurities that we have and the imposter syndrome. And we know that 80% of the way we see the world and the way we see ourselves are formed before we're 12 years old. And so that's why we have to look back to the past. And so a lot of the times with my clients, I'm actually digging into when they were children, because
Mhm.
that's when a lot of these embedded thoughts and narratives were formed. And that old script is still playing in the newer life, now that they're men, right? And so what happens is we get these grown physical men running around with little boy questions that weren't answered by their parents, you know? And so we talk a lot about that. But yeah, the Iron 5 piece, if you want, I can walk you through it. Because that is a framework that I use with a lot of my men. And one of my strengths, Devon, is I take a lot of these intangible things, and I create systems and frameworks for them. So for example, when a man comes to me and he says, My wife, she says she doesn't feel connected to me. What does that mean? Or when my wife says, "I feel like I married a robot." What does that mean? And I'm like, "Okay, well, let's talk about it." Your wife has 3 basic needs, and I teach this to a lot of men: to feel seen, to feel heard, and to feel safe.
Mhm.
And we break those 3 needs down. I'm like, "Here are tactical strategies that you can use to fulfill your wife's needs, to feel seen, to feel heard, and feel safe." And they're like, "Oh, I get that. I get that framework. Now I can use that as tactical, right?
Yeah.
Versus I don't know how to talk to you anymore, or you don't talk to me." Well, a guy comes to me, he's like, What do I do with that?" you know, because we're not emotionally intelligent like so many women are. And so many men are emotionally intelligent too, but the vast majority of them, they pale in comparison to the emotional intelligence of their wives, right?
Yeah.
So the Iron Five is really just 5 people that because I'm such a huge believer in community. And these were the 5 men that helped me get to where I got to, and this is why it's so important because even for me as a coach, I'm gonna coach you, but you still need other men in your life that are gonna walk with you in this, or women in your life that are gonna walk with you through this, right? And so the Iron 5, they all start with P because 'cause I'm obsessed with alliteration. Number 1 is the partner, and this is the person who walks beside you. This is the guy, who's with you in the battle, you know? He knows you. You don't have to wear a mask with him. You don't have to pretend. He fully sees you, fully knows you. Partner. Number 2 is the protector. This is the guy that watches your blind spots. He sees what you miss. He calls out your patterns, the stuff that could be, you know, dangerous if you don't, if it's left unchecked. Number 3 is the provider. And this is, you could think of this guy as the coach or a mentor or some type of, you know, uh, elderly father figure, even for some men. This is the guy who invests in your growth, the provider. He's a mentor, he's a coach, someone like that. Someone who's been where you want to go, and he's willing to open the doors and share the wisdom and help you with that learning curve. Number 4 is the pusher. Now, this guy is your most uncomfortable relationship by a long shot because this guy, he's going to not going to let you coast. The pusher demands your best. He pulls you out of your comfort zone and he reminds you of who you said you wanted to be. Because a lot of times we make these goals and we're like, I don't want it. I don't want to do the work, right? The pusher reminds you. And then the last one is called the pioneer. And he's the guy who shows you what's possible. He's like, man, we all have people like their goals, like there's a guy in my church that I go to. I'm like, man, when I get to be 65, I want to be you. He's
Mm.
killing it. So he would be like a pioneer for me. He's living the life that I'm aiming for. His example expands my vision of what is possible. And so, in my opinion, those 5 men or 5 women or 5 people in your life are the 5 types that you need to really propel you toward whatever it is that you're striving for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I was so many questions came up because I'm thinking at the same time you're assigning these people, right? Each and every person that's supposed to be in your life. They don't have to be exactly men because you said people,
Oh,
right? And
yeah.
then, the next question was, do you get a lot of people that say, well, I don't have 5 people in my life. What am I supposed to do then? Or
Hmm.
do they just, how do you deal with that? I guess if someone
Yeah.
feels like they don't have enough connections in their life.
Yeah. Well, yeah, first of all, it could be women, could be men, could be anybody. So tailor this language to whatever, suits your current situation. Um, I have not met anyone yet that didn't know these 5 people. So when I met with, well, I don't know those people, really what they're saying is, I don't know anyone that I'm comfortable reaching out to, right? To which I say, okay, well, let's talk about that. Because here's the thing, we hold ourselves back from reaching out for mentorship. We hold ourselves back because again, the trap that I fell into. We wanna put up the front, like, we got it all figured out. We're wearing masks, we're whatever. Especially, most of the men that I have met, they really struggle with, like, opening up and being honest and vulnerable. Um, and so they're afraid of judgment because, like, well, what if I tell them I'm struggling and then they're gonna think I'm weak? If they think I'm weak, then they're not gonna respect me, right? But here's the thing. I remind guys this of all the time. I remind guys this all the time. Um, the thing is anyone who's ahead of you knows how hard it is to get to where you're going. No one who's ahead of you is going to criticize you for wanting to be better because they know how hard it is. It's only the people who are behind you who are going to criticize you. And they're like crabs in a bucket. You try and get out and they're pulling you back. He's trying to be better. Oh, yeah, look at him. Must be good. Must be easy. Whatever, right? He's too good for us now. Whatever. But here's the thing, they are not going to be where you're going. So it doesn't matter. Um, so you got to surround yourself with people who will champion you and say, yes, I want to mentor you. I want to help you. Because here's another point, and I'll ask my clients this a lot of the time when they're wrestling with this. I say, has anyone ever reached out to you for help or for wisdom on anything? And they'll say, oh, yeah, yeah, I remember this time, this time. I said, well, how did that feel? Did it feel good? And they're like, yeah, it was great. Like, it was actually humbling. I said, did you go out of your way to make something work so that you could meet with this person to help them? And they said, yeah, absolutely. So I said, "Well, what makes you think you're any different than those people, right? Like, you have that same effect on people you're reaching up to. It doesn't matter who you're not a burden. You're not gonna be, a ball and chain to these people. They love to help. They love to reach back and support people, and those are the people you need in your life anyways,
Mhm.
because those are the people that you're gonna feel comfortable celebrating your wins with."
Yep.
Right? So, for example, when my business hit 6 figures, I was like, "I can't tell anyone that. They're gonna think I'm bragging." Because my current people, my life, were just living at a level
Yeah.
that we just weren't there, and they would have been like, "Oh, must be good, must be nice. You making money. Oh, successful entrepreneur. Look at you, Mr. Influence. Who are you trying to
Mhm.
prove? What are you trying to prove?" And that was the reactions I got, which was a sign to me that I needed to evolve a little bit socially.
Wow.
I needed to get into circles where people's response to that would be, "Amazing.
Mhm.
Congratulations, man. Keep going." Right? "I'm here for you. I'm supporting you." Those are but we don't because it's uncomfortable to reach up, right? So we stay close to what we're used to. And because we're tribal by nature and we don't want to leave the tribe because it's in our DNA, it's in our wiring. You throw us back 4,000 years ago. If we left a tribe, it meant death, right? And so we don't want to leave the tribe. Well, I don't want to make new friends, but it's very likely the friends that are holding you back and keeping you from playing it safe, right? Which is why we need to. I'm not saying get rid of all your friends. I'm just saying start forming or bringing new people into the tribe. You don't have to form a totally new tribe.
Right.
You got to have a circle around you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Me and my friend have this saying that when we're agreeing 100% on something, we say, "Come on now." And
Okay.
I found myself saying that under my breath multiple times because I think you're really hitting on a really good point.
Hmm.
And I'm glad you clarified that about the 5 people. Some people will just make the excuse, or at least what's easiest for us. It's easier to say, I don't have 5 people in my life that I can depend on, or that I can reach up to, or that I look up to in any way, or
Hmm.
because then you don't have to do the work. And I think
Hmm.
most of the time when we're not doing the work, we're not evolving, and if we're not evolving, then you kind of stay stuck where you're at. And I think you're a true testament to that. And
Mm.
even with your podcast and sharing your word, why did you, when you started the podcast, why did you feel it was so important to continue it?
I love that you asked that question because I actually just started sharing this with people. We talk about imposter syndrome and limiting self beliefs. Dude, it took me 3 years to launch this podcast. You know why? Because when I was growing up, I was always told, "You're not the smart one. You're not the
Mm,
smart one in the family. That's your older sister. She gets the straight A's, right? You're gonna probably end up like just your dad, you know, drinking, overweight, whatever." I was told that by family members. I was told that by girlfriends. You know, you name it. You're gonna be just like your father. And so when I got to the point where I turned my life around and I was living at this level, I still didn't subconsciously believe it because here's the thing: every boy, every boy is asking themselves this question: Are you enough? Will you have what it takes when the time comes? And if your father does not answer that question for you, that you are enough and that you do have what it takes, what happens is these young boys grow to be grown men still running around asking that question. And that was me, looking like running around, grown man, married, still asking that question. Am I enough? Am I enough for you? Am I enough for you? Am I enough for you? Never feeling like I had what it takes. And so although I had all the knowledge, all those things, I didn't have the stones to launch the podcast. So what did I do instead? I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. I have a Google Doc Devon, of 600 pages of content, of framework, of
I
strategies
love it.
because I was just like, I got to do something with this, but I don't have the courage to launch it.
Yeah.
And so, why did I start it? Because deep down inside of me, I knew that I was not alone, and I was tired of living alone. And I'm like, surely other people can use this. Surely other people have made these mistakes. And and I believe, Devon, that every family has a curse breaker. For me and my family, I am the curse breaker, you know, and I'm determined to be. And so when I sat there and went to hit publish on the first episode, it was the scariest thing I ever did. Man, like I remember my friend shared my episode. I didn't even know he knew about it. And then all of my friends and family saw it. And I went upstairs to my wife. She was in the nursery and she looked at me, she's like, "What's wrong?" I said, "I think I'm gonna puke." Like he's telling everybody about the podcast.
Yeah.
But it was crazy, man, is within 6 months, it was the top 5% podcast in the world, like, among
Mhm.
the top 5%, which for me is validation, and that was like, "Hey, you do have what it takes. Hey,
Mhm.
you are enough," right? And there's men, thousands of men all around the world whose lives and marriages are being bettered and being changed because of it. And so going back to my turning point at funeral where the minister asked that question, "Are you living a life worth imitating?" To answer your question, man, why did I keep going? It's because in my definition of living a life worth imitating, living a life that's worthy of admiration or respect or whatever, is to devote my life to helping other men. And I said to
Mm,
my wife, we were on a walk a couple weeks ago, and I said, "You know what? I think I'm at the point where if I were to die tomorrow, I would draw my last breath with no regrets."
mm,
Because I will know that with every ounce of energy I had, I helped men, and that there are men around this world who are still married today because of my teaching, who are showing up powerfully as fathers and husbands, and are in better health and better in their career, and they're given to their communities. And so I feel like I am enough, and that this is a great life, and that I'm proud of. And I've never been able to say that up until now. So that's why I keep going, man.
mhm.
'Cause there's still more men that need it,
Yep.
right? I talk to them every single day.
Mhm. No, and I love that. I think that's super powerful. I think the one thing that I didn't realize that has happened as I've started this podcast is that people everyone is just trying to find their purpose, and once they're living in their purpose, then they're truly making an impact in this world, and I think you're making, an impact, and, um, I'm truly grateful to have you here to share that with everyone so they can see that you're a constant, testament to, um, your beliefs, and I
Mm,
think when we start to truly believe and walk in the ways that we're putting out there, I think we start to see the biggest, vastest changes in our lives.
mhm.
But I kind of want to go into your podcast a little more. What's the kind of conversations you guys are having now about men and
Yeah.
what we need.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much asked myself, like, what is something that a man would struggle with in 2025? And let's talk about it. And so my typical demographic, meaning my listeners and my typical clients, are that 25 to 55-year-old, maybe are in a position of leadership, career driven, ambitious kind of guys. Some are married. A lot of them are married. A lot of them are fathers, but that's not a requirement, because we all wrestle with the same things, whether we're in relationships or not. But man, we talk a lot about mindset. How to handle our emotions, how to keep our cool. We talk about um, fitness, business, marriage. Obviously, key relationships. How to connect with your spouse on a more deep level. How to be more present when you show up. I bring in a lot of experts in the field, doctors, neuroscientists, lots of different authors, and we discuss a lot of these topics. We also talk about things like, how to be a man in 2025, because what does that even
Mhm.
mean? Or
Right.
2026, um, because we're so confused about what that looks. What does the word masculinity even mean today? And so there's a lot of confused men out there. Talk a lot about um, things like digital dangers, how to protect our children from digital dangers, apps, predators, all those different things. I've brought in experts that show us how to set up our home. I'm talking real practical, like here are the routers, here are the systems and the networks, and here are the devices that are safe for your kids and the ones that aren't. Here are the apps that are safe for your kids and the ones that aren't. Because I'm trying to teach these men how to step up and take ownership in their home and not to shove all the weight off onto their wives and say, "Oh no, that's what she takes care of," which is basically the entire thing. It's like, no, no, no. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm taking ownership. I want to be a part of this too. Yes, I'm invested in what my kid is watching online, or I want to show up and play with my children when I get home. I'm not just going to check out or drink or scroll. I'm all in. I am where my feet are, and so that's why we talk a lot about these things. And it's, I mean, I got an email a little while ago from a woman who she just texted me or emailed me a picture of a bouquet of flowers, and she said, "My husband is a totally different man." I mean,
Mhm.
I don't even know this woman, and I just emailed her back. I said, "Tell me more. Like, who are you? Who is your husband?" She's like, "Yeah, he's been listening to the Dad Nation podcast," and she said, "I just searched it and found you, and I just want to let you know that he's done a complete 180. Brought him flowers. He's like not on his phone. He's just meeting my needs emotionally." She's like, "I just want to say thanks." She's like, "I don't know who you are, but thank you." You know, I'm like, that is worth it. That's what I'm all about. So those are the things that we talk about on the show.
Nice.
Mm.
If someone's listening to your show, what's one thing that you want them to walk away with? At least every episode.
Mhm. I say this at the beginning and the end of every show, that when the dad gets better, the whole family wins. You know, because if you're in a situation where you are, you have that nuclear family or whatever, the father has a significant impact, and the whole family responds to his energy. If dad is mad, pissed off, the whole family feels it. You know, if he's checking out, nobody feels the love. He carries a significance in the home that a lot of men don't understand. And I'm like, you want to raise strong kids? Be a strong man.
Mhm.
You know, if you want your daughter to bring home a great man one day, then you need to model that greatness for her so she knows how to recognize it when she sees in another man, right? Don't just tell her things, live it, right? That's the best way. You want to have a better marriage? Be a better husband, right? Model it, lead the way. When the dad gets better, the whole family wins. And so for me, I'm just like, I'm so passionate, I believe it. And the thing is you can be. And that's why we release episodes every single week with like tactical strategies. Like, here's what you can take home today to practice in your marriage, to practice with your kids, to practice in your mindset or your fitness or whatever. So I'm a champion for men. whatever that looks like. I mean, fatherhood, husbandship, masculinity, it all looks very different now than what it did, 50 years ago. But I'm here for it all, man. I just want men to be better. So,
I hear that. I as you were talking too, it just made me think, I grew up without a dad in the home. I only had my mom. So my and she would always say this thing where I'm your mom and your dad, and I
mhm.
always felt like that was just like, ugh, like I know what you're trying to do, but at the same time, it just didn't. I wanted a dad,
Mhm.
so I have now that I'm raising kids, and my kids are adopted, so it's a different situation, but they're mine. So I feel that need to be, that guy, and that's why I started this podcast. That's why I wrote my book. All the things I've done because of them. But for anyone that may be listening that may be in the same situation as I was in when I was growing up, and I don't know if you've come across this, but anyone that didn't have a dad that was growing up, any advice that you would give them to try, as they become parents, as they become adults, um, any advice you would give to them to try to be the best man they can be, or um, anything that you noticed, with us, in general, the
Mhm.
people that don't have that foundation of a two-parent household?
Mhm. Yeah, I would say if you didn't have a dad, growing up, it's not too late to find one.
Mm.
I don't care if you're 20 or if you're 40 or if you're 60. We all need a father, and you don't need to be a kid to have a father. Let me explain. I'm 39 years old, and I have a therapist that I see often, and he said, "You need to find a man that you see look that you respect, admire, you look up to, that is a fatherly figure to you." And he said, "What I want you to do is I want you to reclaim all those things that were taken from you as a child, and I want you to do them with him." So, for example, um, I always wanted to go for ice cream with my dad, with my family. Um, I don't know why. It was just something, have these weird flashbacks. I probably saw it on TV in a happy family. I always wanted to play catch. Never played catch with my dad. I always, you know, and so I approached this this guy. I mean, he's almost 70 years old. He goes to my church, and I said, "Hey, man, this is gonna sound weird, but I respect you and I admire you, and my therapist was telling me that I need to find someone that can pour into me." Because what he said was fatherhood and like masculinity is caught, not taught. You can't teach it, and that's why God love our moms. They want to say, I mean, my mom said that too. But you can't teach masculinity. You have to catch it, right? From other men. And so I said to this man, I'm like, "Hey, this sounds funny, but like, would you want to go for ice cream sometime?" Or like you want to like play catch in the backyard. I mean, I have a house, family, a backyard. I'm like, "You want to come over and play catch?" He's like, "Sure, man." But you know what's crazy? Something wild happened. He started to tear up, and he's like, Mitch, he's like, "You know what? Thank you so much for asking me to do this." Because my dad was an alcoholic, and he didn't play with us. He left early, and he's like, "Honestly, it would mean the world to me if I could come and play catch with you and go for ice cream with you." He's like, "There's gonna be a lot of redemption in this for me as well." And dude, it has been such a beautiful, thing for me and a healing process. And I'm like, and I was hard, man. I was so hard. I was like, "I don't need him. I don't need a dad, whatever. I made it on my own." And, and but I did need it. And so it's been so powerful. So I would say find one. It doesn't have to be your
Oh,
biological
it's
one.
making me cry.
But there's a couple things, just getting around community, right? And and finding a coach, finding a mentor to come around you and support you because that's what we need, right? So hopefully that helps.
No, that helped a lot. That actually made me wanna cry. That's so beautiful. I never thought of that, and never looked at it that way,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there are mentors in my life that are older that, if I, had asked them, I'm sure they would be, more than willing.
Hmm.
So thank you for that. That actually was really powerful.
You're welcome. Glad
Um,
glad I could share.
Yeah. I only have a few more questions before I let you go.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed this conversation. I feel like what you're doing is super powerful, especially with your podcast. I think it's really needed, and that's probably why you're seeing such a positive response so early.
Mhm.
When you put it out. But what does success mean to you?
Yeah, I love that question. I love it and I hate it at the same time because when I say this is what success looks like for me, I know that there are gonna be people who listen to your podcast, and this might be 6 months from now, it could be the day after it's released, and the second I say it, they're gonna be like, "That's what it means for me too. I'm gonna do that." Right? I'm like, "No, no, no, no. That's what it means for me." Everyone is so different. What success looks like for you, it has to be determined by you and you alone. And the reason I say that is because comparison is the robber of all joy, right? You want to suck the joy out of your marriage? Start comparing yourself to other marriages. You want to suck the joy out of your relationship with your kids? Start comparing your kids to other kids. You understand what I mean? You want to suck the joy out of your career? Compare yourself to other people who are making more money. You'll lose the joy real quick. And so what happens is we fall into this trap of letting other people define success for us, right? Whether it's the people on Instagram, or it's the guy down on the end of the cul-de-sac with the new boat, or the brother-in-law who makes more money, or what, fill in the blank with whatever it is that you compare yourself to. And so success becomes this carrot on a stick that's completely unattainable and unachievable. And even if you were to get the boat or get the thing, by the time you get there, it's changed again because you're always looking outward. So what I lead my clients to do is a very simple exercise, and it's a reflection exercise to really be able to define success for themselves. And it's a question and a couple statements. And if you want, I can walk you through it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. So if it were me and you, Devon, and let's say, for example, we were to bump into each other in the airport 3 years from now, and I was like, "Hey, Devon, how you doing, man? It's been 3 years, like since I was on your show. How's life?" And you were to say, "Mitch, these 3 years have been the best 3 years of my life. Let me tell you about it." Right now, what would have to be true about where you're at to make it the best 3 years of your life? And then what we do is we get very, very clear and specific. Where are you working? What does your career look like? Where what does your home look like? Or where are you living? What's your relationship with your spouse like? Where I'm talking like where do your kids go to school? What are you driving? How much money is in your bank account? I love this question. If you were to have a barbecue in your backyard, who would you be inviting in 3 years from now? Are they the same people as you'd invite today? And so what you wanna do is you wanna write down everything and into like a couple paragraphs and make it like, it's like the movie scene where they're driving off in the sunset, right? And the reason why we say 3 years is because you can almost taste it, like, it's close enough that it's real. 10 years is way too far. Even 5 years is too far. And so what you do is you get really practical about that image, that picture, and then that gives you a clear picture of where you're going. Because first of all, you need to know where you're going if you wanna get there. Otherwise, you have no idea, and this is another part of the reason we have no clarity. That's why we let everyone else define it for us. So once you have a picture of what a successful life would look like for you, then you answer some questions. And it's the same question, or you write some statements. I'll know I'm being successful when fill in the blank. Now, the key thing about this is this has to be true for you. It has to be something that you're passionate about. It has to be something that can evolve with you as you grow. And it could be anything. It could be something like, I'll know I'm being successful if I go 7 days without snapping at my kids. I'll know I'm being successful when if I can work out for 3 times a week for 6 months. I'll know I'm being successful when I have $500,000 in my bank account, or, it could be literally anything. But that's the key. It has to be defined by you. You print them off. It's usually 7 or 8 statements. Stick them on your monitor. I don't care. Hang them up on your wall, and they become your anchor, right? And you revisit them once a quarter. I'll know I'm being successful when. Okay, have I kept my cool? All right, yeah, I have. Have I, been training? Yeah, okay, great. My marriage is in a good place. Da 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 da. And then you anchor yourself to those things because then you say, hey, according to my definition of success, I am being successful. And that is all that matters. It does not matter what anyone else is doing. Does not matter what anyone else's marriage looks like or their bank account looks like or their relationship with their kids look like or how good they're doing in school. Um, this is what matters to me. And then every 6 months, every year, you change them, right? You might want to upgrade them and raise the bar a little bit. Okay, well, now what it looks like for me to be successful is to go 2 weeks without losing or snapping at my kids, right? And so, in my definition of success, that's what it looks like to be successful, is to have clarity, right? And to define it for yourself and then to go after it with intentionality.
Hmm. I hope everyone's listening. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you just sharing so much insight about your podcast. Before you leave, I would really like for you to let us know where anyone can watch the podcast, where they can find you if they want to work with you, any of those details. We'll leave them in the show notes as well.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for asking, Devon. I really appreciate that, man. My podcast is on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify, the three big ones. So if you just Google the Dad Nation podcast, you'll find me plastered everywhere. But the website is Dad Nation Co, and you can check that out. I've got a ton of free resources on the website for men. And then of course I do coaching as well. I'll give you the link to just straight up. It's a link to my calendar, and you can book a strategy call. If you're listening to this and you're a man who's wrestling in any of those areas we talked about, or you just want to take it to the next level this year, or if you're a woman and you're listening and you know a man, or you're married to a man, or you're in a relationship with a man that you really would love to see him show up more powerfully, or to love you more effectively, or to be there for his kids, or to whatever, maybe he needs more ambition, more drive, whatever it looks like. I'm telling you, the podcast, the coaching is going to take him to the next level. That's how you can find me, the podcast, the website, and then, yeah, you can just reach out to book a direct call if you want to.
Do you work with couples as well?
I have, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and
Just, yeah.
I'm willing to as well, yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that would, yeah. For some strange reason, I feel like you would be really good with couples if that wasn't. But if you do, yeah, that
Well,
makes
and
sense.
and here's the thing, man, because and I don't like that it's this way, but in my experience, a lot of men are hesitant to go to therapy and especially see female therapists, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of men, if they have any chance at going to therapy, they have to be a guy, right? And they don't necessarily like therapy, but they like coaching. That sounds a lot less weak to a man, right? And that's why I am a male or a men's coach, because that's just more, there's a smaller barrier to entry. But at the end of the day, men, whether like I said, I don't like that it's that way, but it is the way it is. And so that's why I'm pretty out front about being a male. And, because generally speaking, men are more comfortable, even with their wife in the room, talking to another man versus a woman, right? So,
Well, that makes sense. Thank you so much again, Mitchell. I really appreciate you being here. And hopefully, anyone that's listening has learned something today. And if they want to learn more, they can go to your podcast. Um, but until next time, guys, we will see you on the next episode. Thank you.
Hola amigos, Liam here, and wow, what another great episode if you ask me. If you'd like to learn more about Mitchell and check out the podcast, head to www.dadnashonco.com to learn more. Until next time, have a great week and don't forget to like and subscribe. It's the kind thing to do.
Hey guys, it's Icarus here.
And Amelia.
And I'm here to tell you if you'd like to join our brand new adventure. Go to DevonTaylorAuthor.com to learn more.
And check out the cool items like the new bucket hat.
Yeah, and so much more. See you guys there.
Stay true to yourself, don't quit, don't